Zendaya is reportedly on the verge of a total breakdown, and insiders point to one toxic, unbreakable contract as the reason. A deal so powerful it has silently chained her to the very machine that made her a star. For years, we've watched her ascend to the pinnacle of Hollywood, believing we were witnessing a flawless victory. But we were wrong. What you're about to see is the untold story of a carefully managed prison, a silent war behind the red carpet smiles, and the three crushing pressures that are systematically pushing one of our most beloved stars to her absolute limit. This isn't just gossip. This is an investigation into the dark underbelly of modern fame. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why Zendaya is disappearing before our eyes. The public image of Zendaya is a masterpiece of modern celebrity engineering. She is, by all appearances, the exception. The child star who didn't just survive but transcended. From her Disney Channel origins on Shake It Up, to her status as the two-time Emmy-winning star of Euphoria and the face of the billion-dollar Spider-Man and Dune franchises, her trajectory has been a seemingly perfect upward line. She is lauded for her grace, her intelligence, her impeccable fashion, and her poised, unproblematic public persona. In an industry of scandals and meltdowns, Zendaya has been a bastion of control. She is an easy icon to celebrate, the role model parents point to, the star who appears to have navigated the treacherous waters of fame without a single misstep. However, this flawless exterior is not a happy accident. It is the product of an immense, crushing, and increasingly unsustainable pressure system. The truth is, Zendaya is not immune to the darkness of Hollywood. She is trapped in a gilded cage of her own success, and the walls are closing in. The first and most suffocating pressure is the Marvel-Sony stranglehold. To understand the depth of her entrapment, we must go back to the beginning. In 2016, a young Zendaya was cast as MJ in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Spider-Man: Homecoming. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but the fine print contained a devil's bargain. Insiders close to the production reveal that she, like many young actors entering a mega franchise, signed a multi-picture deal with Sony and Marvel Studios. These contracts are notoriously rigid, often spanning 6 to 9 films, granting the studio's ultimate control over an actor's schedule, public image, and creative choices for nearly a decade. At the time, it was a ticket to the big leagues. Today, it has become an inescapable anchor. As Zendaya's star exploded outside of the MCU, the demands of the franchise did not lessen. They intensified. The success of the Spider-Man films made her character indispensable. Her role expanded, and with each new installment, sequel, and potential spin-off, the studio's claim on her time and energy grew. This contract dictates where she can be and when, for years in advance. It's why her projects between Spider-Man films are often meticulously placed in small, specific windows. It's the reason she had to juggle the intense, emotionally draining press tours for Spider-Man: No Way Home and Euphoria Season 2. Simultaneously, a period insiders now refer to as the breaking point. She was contractually obligated to promote the billion-dollar blockbuster with a smiling face, while simultaneously embodying the trauma of her character Rue, a role that required her to go to psychologically dark places. The whiplash was brutal. Sources say she was running on empty, suffering from severe anxiety and exhaustion, but the machine would not, and could not, stop. The contract demanded more. This corporate stranglehold directly fuels the second pressure point: the curse of the chameleon. Zendaya is celebrated for her chameleonic ability to disappear into roles, but this immense talent comes at a profound personal cost. There is a reason she has spoken about feeling like she doesn't have a solid sense of self. She has spent her entire adult life being someone else. First as the Disney star, then as the cool MJ, then as the devastatingly raw Rue Bennett, and then as the epic sci-fi heroine Chani in Dune. Each of these roles requires a complete psychic and physical transformation, and the whiplash between them is not just stressful, it's identity eroding. The most damaging transformation by far has been for Rue in Euphoria. The role is hailed as a career-defining masterpiece, but it has reportedly taken a severe toll on her mental health. Method acting adjacent approaches, the emotional intensity of the scenes, and the prolonged immersion in a character battling addiction and trauma have left scars. Insiders from the set describe her as often withdrawn and quiet between takes, struggling to shed the character's darkness at the end of the day. She has admitted to carrying the weight of Rue home with her, a weight that becomes unbearable when piled on top of the demands of her other, vastly different contractual obligations. The chameleon is losing sight of her own colors, and the constant, frantic shifting between these colossal personas is creating a crisis of self that no amount of fame or critical acclaim can fix. The toll is becoming visible to those who know where to look. The spark in her eyes during interviews has, at times, been replaced by a hollow, practiced gaze. The effortless charm has occasionally given way to a visible, weary effort. She is a star shining at its absolute brightest, but in the world of physics, the brightest stars are the ones closest to burning out. And the third, most insidious pressure, the one that has severed her final lifelines, is already in motion, ensuring she faces this battle increasingly alone. The machine is isolating its most valuable asset, and the consequences are about to push her over the edge. The isolation didn't happen overnight. It began subtly. A canceled dinner plan here, a missed birthday there, always with the same reasonable explanation: "I'm just so tired," or "the schedule is insane right now." But to those who truly knew her, the pattern became unmistakable. The third, and perhaps most devastating pressure, closing in on Zendaya, is what those in her inner circle are calling the vanishing act, the systematic erosion of every personal anchor that once kept her grounded. Started with the physical distance from her family. While she remains incredibly close to her parents, the relentless demands of her career have created an unavoidable geographic and emotional chasm. During the peak filming of Euphoria Season 2, overlapping with Spider-Man press, she spent nearly 11 consecutive months away from her childhood home. Her parents, her bedrock, were reduced to faces on a screen, their comforting presence limited to scheduled calls that were often interrupted by work obligations or cut short by exhaustion. The familiar comfort of her own bed, her mother's cooking, the simple, quiet moments that recharge a soul. These became distant memories, replaced by hotel rooms and craft service tables. Then came the slow dissolution of her friendships. The inner circle that once laughed together, that provided a safe space away from the cameras, began to shrink. It wasn't about dramatic fights or falling outs, but about the quiet, heartbreaking reality of being left behind. How do you maintain a friendship when you have to cancel for the 5th time? How do you explain to your oldest friends that you simply don't have the capacity to listen to their problems about work or relationships because you're barely holding yourself together? One by one, the texts became less frequent. The group chats fell silent, and the invitations stopped coming. They hadn't abandoned her. The unrelenting pace of her career had forced her to abandon them. The most telling sign of this isolation has been her relationship with Tom Holland. While the world ships them as the perfect Hollywood couple, insiders reveal a relationship strained by the very same forces pulling Zendaya apart. They are two of the busiest young stars on the planet. Their schedule's a nightmare of conflicting commitments. Their time together is often dictated by the tiny windows their contracts allow. A few days here, a week there. It's a relationship conducted in stolen moments between filming locations and press tours, more often over FaceTime than in person. While they are a source of support for each other, they are also a mirror of the same pressures, unable to provide the consistent, daily presence that a struggling partner often needs. They are trying to build a foundation on shifting sand, both drowning in their own separate professional obligations. This profound isolation creates a vicious cycle. The more alone she feels, the more she throws herself into her work. And the more she works, the more isolated she becomes. Her team, while protective, is also part of the machine. Their job is to keep the brand moving forward, to honor the contracts, to maintain the image. There is little room in that equation for "she needs a break." A source close to the production of her upcoming film, Challengers, described her as professionally polite but emotionally distant, a woman who had retreated deep within herself. The vibrant, goofy personality that fans fell in love with on social media years ago has been replaced by a polished, cautious, and weary public figure. The physical manifestations of this internal struggle are becoming harder to conceal. Stylists and makeup artists who have worked with her recently speak of having to use more advanced techniques to mask the signs of extreme fatigue. There's a palpable tension in her shoulders during red carpet appearances that even the most beautiful gown can't hide. The smile, once effortless and radiant, now sometimes looks like a conscious, physical effort, a muscle memory of happiness rather than the real thing. We are witnessing a human being in a state of quiet, desperate overwhelm. The Marvel contract dictates her schedule, the chameleon roles are consuming her identity, and the vanishing act is stripping away her support system. She is becoming a ghost in the glittering machine, performing the role of Zendaya, while the real person inside is fading. And as the momentum builds toward her next, most demanding project yet, those who care about her are holding their breath, fearing that this time, the pressure may finally prove too much to bear. The breaking point isn't coming. It has already arrived. and the world is about to see the cracks become a chasm. The breaking point arrived not with a dramatic public meltdown, but in the suffocating quiet of a London hotel room during what should have been her moment of greatest triumph. It was the spring of 2024, during the final grueling weeks of filming for Challengers, a project that demanded not just emotional vulnerability, but intense physical transformation. The combination of a brutal shooting schedule, the lingering psychological weight of Rue Bennett, and the impending press tour for Dune. Part 2 created a perfect storm. According to a source who was present, Zendaya simply stopped. She couldn't get out of bed. The well of performative energy, meticulously drained over a decade, was finally completely dry. The machine had pushed its most valuable asset until she broke, and the emergency protocols had to be activated. This moment of crisis forced a long overdue reckoning. The carefully constructed dam was breaking, and the cracks are now becoming visible to the world. The first sign was the sudden, last-minute cancellation of several high-profile press commitments for Dune Part 2. The official statement cited a sudden bout of flu, but insiders confirm it was a mandatory intervention orchestrated by her team and a deeply concerned inner circle. It wasn't a flu, it was a system shutdown. This was followed by her noticeably subdued presence on the red carpets she did attend. While she looked every bit the ethereal star, her interactions were brief, her smiles fleeting. The spark that defined her was dimmed, and the world noticed. Comments flooded social media with concern. She looks exhausted. Where is Zendaya's light? I'm worried about her. This has sparked what those in her camp are calling the reckoning, a silent, desperate battle for her very soul. On one side is the corporate machinery, the studios with their unbreakable contracts, the brands with their multi-million-dollar deals, the system that views her not as a human being but as a valuable, revenue-generating entity. Their position is clear: the show must go on. There are shareholders, release dates, and global marketing campaigns that depend on her participation. The pressure to power through is immense and unrelenting. On the other side is a newly assembled coalition of her family, her true friends, and a small, trusted team who are fighting to protect the person, not the brand. They are the ones who force the press cancellations. They are the ones insisting on carving out mandatory, contractually obligated breaks. They are fighting for what they call the Great Pause, a potential 6-month to 1-year hiatus after her current obligations are fulfilled. But this is not a simple request. It would mean halting the momentum of the most successful career of her generation, potentially losing out on coveted roles, and facing catastrophic financial penalties from brands and studios. The stakes of this reckoning could not be higher. If the machine wins, we will continue to see the slow fading of a brilliant light. The performances may still be technically perfect, but the soul behind them will continue to retreat until it vanishes completely. We risk witnessing the complete burnout of one of our most gifted artists. But if Zendaya and her allies win, it could set a revolutionary precedent. Her stepping back would send a shockwave through Hollywood, a powerful message that even the most successful stars are human beings with limits. It would be a courageous act that could help dismantle the toxic grind culture that has destroyed so many. The truth is, Zendaya is at a crossroads that defines legacies. The path forward is not clear. The contracts are still binding, the expectations are still sky high, and the world still wants a piece of her. But for the first time, the person inside the icon is fighting back. The silent struggle is no longer silent. It's a battle for survival, and the outcome will determine whether we get to watch Zendaya continue to shine for decades to come, or whether we will be left wondering how we stood by and watched as the pressure extinguished one of the brightest stars of our time. This story is bigger than one celebrity. It's about the human cost of our entertainment. What do you think? Should Zendaya be pressured to fulfill every contract, or does her well-being come first? Let's have a real conversation in the comments. I read every single one, and your perspective matters. If this deep dive into the dark side of fame shocked you, you need to see our investigation into the silent crisis happening with Timothée Chalamet. The patterns are disturbingly similar. Click here to watch it right now. And if you believe in supporting artists as human beings first, be part of our community. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because we're committed to bringing you the untold stories and hard truths about your favorite stars. Don't miss what we uncover next.